Exercise 5. Solder joints, lugs, sleeves, ferrules in copper, aluminium cable.
In this exercise, you will know the importance of soldering and how it can be carried out. At the end of this exercise, you shall be able to solder copper conductor joints using a soldering iron and resin coat solder. Solder a lug in a copper cable with the help of a blow lamp. Make sleeve or ferrule joints in copper cables by the pot and ladle method. Solder a lug to an aluminium cable. Make a ferrule joint in an aluminium cable. Make a sleeve joint in an aluminium cable.
Requirements: tools and instruments. Wireman's hand tool kit, 1 set. Steel rule of 300 mm, 1 number. Diagonal cutting pliers, 150 mm, 1 number. Electric soldering iron of 60 watts, 250 volts and 50 Hz, 1 number. Blow lamp of 1 liter capacity, 1 number. Tongs, 300 mm, 1 number. Sheet steel tray, 150 into 150 into 20 mm, 1 number. Pot and ladle, 1 set. Tripod stand, 1 number. File, that is flat bastard, 150 mm, 1 number. Procedure. Task 1. Solder copper conductor joints. Select a 60 watts 250 volt AC 50 Hz soldering iron and ensure that the iron has no physical damage. Check the bit to see whether the surface is smooth and clean. When the bit becomes sufficiently hot, apply a small quantity of resin coated solder and tin the bit. Keep the soldering iron bit on the joint and heat it for soldering. When the joint is heated, keep the resin coated solder on the joint and allow it to melt. Use the cotton cloth to wipe off the excess solder from the surface of the joint when it is still hot. Allow the joint to cool naturally. Do not blow air for cooling. Task 2. Solder a lug to a copper conductor. Collect 30 amps cable lug, copper cable 7 bar 1.06 or 7 bar 0.914, that is 6 square millimeter of 250 millimeter length. Blow lamp. Matchbox. Cotton cloth. Solder stick. Tray. And flux. Clean the inner and outer surfaces of the 30 amps cable. Add about 2 mm to the marking. Remove the insulation from the cable and clean the strands. Wrap a cloth or cotton tape on the insulation of the cable to a length of 30 mm and wet it with water. Light the blow lamp and let it emit a blue flame. Apply a thin coat of flux to the cable end. Tin the cable end by monitoring the blow lamp on the solder stick. Apply a small quantity of flux inside the lug socket. Tin the lug by melting solder stick to fill the socket and pour the molten solder in the tray. Apply some flux to the cable end and socket interior. Fill up the socket of the lug with molten solder. Monitor the blow lamp flame on the socket. Insert the cable in the socket and hold the cable vertically. Remove the blow lamp and hold the cable and socket without shaking. Task 3. Solder a ferrule or sleeve to copper cable. Collect two pieces of 7 bar 1.06 or 7.0.914 copper cable. Remove the insulation from the cable and clean the strands. Clean the inner and outer surfaces of the 30 amps cable. Melt solder, that is a blow lamp, also could be used. Put some flux in the molten solder and remove the slag from the top surface by the ladle. Apply some flux inside the ferrule. Apply a small quantity of flux on the cable ends. Place a prepared cable and tin it by pouring molten solder on it with the help of the ladle. Tin both of the cable ends. Insert the tinned cable ends in the ferrule such that only 6 mm bare conductor is seen outside. Keep the joint over the tray and pour molten solder over the joint with the help of the ladle so that the molten solder gets inside the ferrule through the gap. Hold the jointed cables without shaking and allow the solder joint to cool.
Dear students, you might have known how to solder a copper conductor joints, solder a lug to a copper conductor, solder a ferrule, sleeve to copper cables, and also in aluminium.